Welcome to the second episode of the OpenScore Conversations podcast. I hope you're having a wonderful day as you tune into this episode. Today we have a fantastic conversation with Kathy Feng, the amazing classical pianist and educator behind the Instagram account Piano Trills. Her mission is to connect as many people as possible to piano education by creating tutorials for students of all ages, levels, and backgrounds. There is no doubt that she is succeeding because her Instagram account has been having explosive growth. Please do check out her beautiful, accessible, and concise piano technique tutorials at Piano Trills. Today, we explore how her teachers have influenced her as a pianist and educator, what music means to her and her growth as a person, the difficulties as an educator in a public school system, how she uses social media to work for her and her mission, and much more. If you would like to support this channel and see the extended version of this podcast, please head on over to my Patreon. I hope you enjoy. I know when you were younger, and you've had probably, I guess, two really notable teachers in your life along your musical journey.
Yeah.
One when you were
Fair.
younger and
Fair.
one, I guess, in university.
Fair.
What was it about those two teachers that, I guess, like, added some gas to your musical journey that just hooked you in? What was it about them?
Like they just like embody the music themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not just about like the technical finesse or something. It was just like they lived and breathed the music, and just being in proximity with them, you felt it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, teaching beat or like musicality or rhythm, like there's a certain quality to it that's kind of like a flair, a personality. Almost, it's hard to put into words, but being beside them, like you can hear what they're hearing, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I could hear it that way. Or they just have like this feel for the music, and then they show you how to like drive the music in a certain way, and then you catch it. And then it's like being in a dance, and then you get into the dance, and then you start to fall into the dance instead of like working against it, right? Yeah, so that was very illuminating, and they were just great with that for like every piece of music I had.
Mm-hmm.
Like just that sense of, you know, musicality. I think it's very innate, and I think they were very naturally gifted at that, and they were very natural with sharing that kind of feeling. Yeah, just like being, you know, one of their students. Yeah, it just opened my eyes to what was behind the score and what music is like truly about in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is music truly about for you?
What is it for me? I think it depends on like when you ask me that question. I think like different points of time I might give you a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, to me, what music is more truly about is almost like a mirror, or like kind of like a meditation. Mm-hmm. It's almost like something where you can just be all there, and just the whole rest of the world just disappears. Like there's no other thought that has a room in you. You know, mm-hmm. It's just you and the music, and it's like skin to skin. And it's just, that's how I feel it right now as a pianist, I guess. But, you know, different times along the way, I think I would feel differently. I think when I was younger, I felt it way more like I wanted to be so good at like Chopin, and I wanted to be like so good at like
the next
Bach.
Martha Argerich.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was like definitely way more focused on like the competitive aspect, and
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a place for that. But I think as you grow older,
music will play a different role in your life.
Different times in your life.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a friend that grows up with you, and everybody
Absolutely.
goes through different times.
Absolutely, and it's like an old friend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say like music and piano is my first love, and it will
Mm-hmm.
always be. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been like, you know, over 20 years, and it's just gonna keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think music for me is also my first love as well. And while we all have our like ups and downs with it, you know, you'll have some times where you separate. You're like, I need some space.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
sometimes like I want you back. It's just a relationship.
So true. Yeah. It's like its own little relationship. Exactly. Yeah. Ebb and flow.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any lessons that you've had with your previous teachers
Mm-hmm.
that was super memorable for you, that helped build that relationship with music?
I would say it's like seeing how passionate they were too about it. Like their whole life was about music.
Mm-hmm.
Just everything that they're involved in was, you know, focused on that, and just that singular focus really helped me understand that it's good to focus on one thing and really explore it in depth, than just kind of like touch on like very minusculely like little things, like different things, which is fine. There's a place for that too, but I think just the more you go in depth with a really awesome topic like piano, you just discover more and more things, and seeing their passion and their focus on that, and how, you know, in their 60s, 70s, 80s they were still pursuing it. It's just lovely. I think that's what I wish like everyone would take music into their lives. Besides just like appreciating it, right, which is awesome, it's just like a really wonderful journey that grows with you and just helps reveal like a different part of your humanity as you age. It's like every time I just like learn something new, yes. And I'm like transformed, but like in ways that I can't even like put words to.
Yes.
It's just, yeah, it's just so, I don't know, it's like a symbiotic relationship. Like you're just melding together with your teacher, and like they're thinking something or they're feeling something, and you get it, and then you express it, and they're happy about that, and then you just move on. There's always parts where like both of you are just like, oh my god, we don't know what to do. Okay, we're gonna like come back to that later. Yeah. It's just, it was good times. I remember that. I don't think like personally as a teacher I'm like at that level yet. I would love to be at that level, but I think I'm gonna need like 20 more years.
I mean, we all grow and learn as teachers, because teaching is an art, practicing is art, everything
and
is
an
art.
Experience.
Yeah, definitely an experience.
Yeah.
Are there any things or characteristics your teacher had that you would want to pull into yourself and give to your students?
So selfless, just so giving and so generous with their time and their knowledge. Like the number of times like both of those teachers have like gone above and beyond, spending so much extra hours on their own time, on their own dime, just to help nurture and bring that piece alive and nurture me as a young musician. Like, come on, like that's like, that's priceless. Like that's just love. Like honestly, I think it's like it's their love for what they do and love for music. Yeah. I just think they were just so like open and giving, and that's really nice. Yeah. I think in the capitalistic world, it's very nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to like sports or any form of art, visual arts, dance, or music, there needs to be that teacher that is so selfless and generous because they love the art, because they love nurturing students so much that they create that space for you to grow.
Yeah. And
it's very rare to find that anywhere else.
Yes.
Like you're not going to find that from like a math teacher. Maybe, but in the way that you interact as humans and learn to be human in your art and in respect to the art, it's very rare to find, and a good experience that I hope everyone will be able to have for sure.
Yeah, it was a huge blessing. Like, I understand how fortunate I was. So, like, my parents, like, we didn't come from much. So, like, my dad, they were immigrants, and we had, like, 3 of us. My dad, like, drove a truck most of the time when I was young, and then we could, like, the lessons were, like, expensive, right? Like, she was really good. So, like, this is, like, what, 1999, it was, like, $80 an hour. And, like, that's expensive. And then the teacher would just, like, she would just, like, work with me on Saturdays, and then work with me again on Thursdays. Yeah, like, literally on Thursdays, like, I would be the last student, and it was, like, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. She would just work with me, and then on Saturdays, she would work with me again.
2 more hours?
Like, Saturdays usually, like, an hour. She's very busy on Saturdays.
Okay, yeah.
But, like, that's, like, a good, 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And that definitely helps you grow, of course.
Yes.
When you're being nurtured that way. It's, yeah, like, just looking back now as an adult, I just find that very special. But that's what teachers are. Like, even working in the educator field, all the teachers I know, like, they give.
Yes.
It's almost to the point that, like, there are no boundaries. Like,
in some ways, yes.
Lunchtime, no, you're working with a student on, like, their English and stuff. It's like there's no boundaries. Like, just always giving. Yeah, I love teachers.
Yeah, it's definitely, being a teacher sometimes is like a thankless job, but you're there for the growth. You're there for whatever it is that you're teaching. And I love that you talked about not having boundaries, because sometimes as humans we do need a little bit of boundaries. Sometimes you're like, really, can I eat my sandwich at lunch? We'll talk about your math problem maybe later.
Yeah.
You
really do. Yeah, that was something I learned too, like, just going through times when you're so burnt out from, doing so much, and, like, running extracurriculars, and running, like, choir, or running, like, band, and then doing all the assessments. And teachers are bombarded with a lot of, like, busy work nowadays. There's a lot of, like, paperwork and, like, aspects that you have to keep in track of, like documentations you have to do. It's changed quite a bit, I think. And that takes up a lot of time and energy. And it just kind of takes away from, what you really want to do, which is just, like, be with the students and have, like, those teaching moments, Yeah.
No, I totally understand. Sometimes you're doing so much of the stuff behind the scenes that take away from the actual joy of wanting to teach and, being with that student.
Yeah, that can lead to burnout, right? Like, when you're just so stretched thin in all different areas, And yeah, when that happens, like, you just gotta like give yourself time and just, you know, take it easy and just try to relax off of whatever else, you know, can just say no to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even saying no is something you learn, I think, along the journey.
Yeah. How do you work your social media around your busy schedule as a teacher and your personality as a creative? Do you find that you had to battle against that, or it just kind of fit together really nicely?
It fits well in the sense that like my channel is basically like educational, and that really I just used like my knowledge of like how to explain a concept like quickly, simply, straightforward, you know, sequentially, and that helps, you know, that plays into it. It also works well because Instagram is so like free form. There's no like right or wrong answer, and it's also short form. So that also helps, right? Like, yes. I'm not producing like 1 hour episodes every week, which I cannot do with like a full-time job. And the fact that it's more free form just allows your creativity to flow, depending on even like what are your interests at the moment. And you can go after that and figure out an interesting angle, I guess, or positioning to express that point to your audience. And usually there's good feedback too. And the feedback is immediate. Like if you express something in a way that's like, you know, okay, the feedback will be okay. But if you find like a way to express it that's a little bit more, I guess, like intriguing or captivating, then like the feedback will also be very good, right? And I like that feedback system. I don't know, maybe I'm just like, you know, being trained by Instagram. Obviously I am.
Yeah, we're all being trained by social media in a little way.
Yeah. But it's fun, right? Life is like, a lot of it is about play, and Instagram, if you see it as like more like a playground, it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you don't see social media as a way to be that playground, to be experimental, not only in the things that you're creating, but even just self-expression, it can really start to dampen on the creativity part. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Have you found that you are also starting to think in trends or catering to social media, or do you just do whatever?
If I see a trend that I feel like I would love to try, I would. But most of the time, I kind of ignore a lot of the noise, just because I don't have time. I don't have enough time. I ignore the noise, and then I kind of have I Google Keep. You know, I use Google Keep, and a lot of times I just have all these ideas, and then I just jot it all down, and then I put the word reels in it. And then when it's time, I just like, you know, type in reels, and all my ideas come out, and I'm like, oh, which one do I feel like doing today? And then sometimes when you practice, you also have inspiration from the piece that you're doing. So then you kind of like mesh things together, you know, take a song you're doing, add an idea to it, and then you can share it, and you're like, hey, it works, cool, I'm done. So it's nice because I feel like I get to be creative, and it's not so taxing in the fact that it's shorter, that I can keep up with it. We'll see how long I can keep up with it for, but at least for now. You know?
It seems to work very well in that you're also making videos that is spurred by your inspiration. So you're not feeling that dread or bogged down, like, oh, do I have any ideas? I love that you have that note app, because I do the same thing.
Nice.
So on the days where you're like, I don't know what to think about, you can go into your bank.
Yeah.
But I love that you're working on inspiration, because I think that's really important to not get burnt out.
Yeah. It's right now it's more fulfilling rather than taxing. I think like last year around like August I got more taxed because I felt more like pressure on myself. It's really more internal pressure you put on yourself to do well, and then when a post doesn't do well, you just kind of like for some reason get a little like down on yourself, or like, yeah, that was weird. That was like a phase I went through.
I think every social media person will go through that phase where it's like, why am I not getting enough views? And is this not good enough? Why is the algorithm not liking this? And sometimes I have to remind myself, I'm like, I'm not catering to an AI algorithm. I'm trying to cater to the audience that I want to feed to inspire, to build. But I know a lot of, in my groups in our community of like the social media, we do have little talks of like, why is this post doing so bad? And you know, it's good to have that community to support you and remind you. It's like, it's not all about the views.
It's not. It really isn't. There's also like this thing called like a professional dashboard. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like this little function. And yeah, I remember when I was in August last year, I would just, 2021, I would just like check it every day, and then I would see like how it's doing, and that was not good for my mental health. And now so I took a break from September to November 2021. And then when I started again in November 2021, I'm basically like, I'm not checking it, and I haven't checked it except for sometimes I accidentally press it. This is at the top. I swear to do it. So like it's right at the top. It's easy access. And for some reason, like the less I cared, the better it's been for me. And I think even my audience, like the better it's been. It's just more natural. Like just let it go.
At the end of the day with social media, it's like you're trying to create and find your tribe of people.
Yes.
So you have to be you, and sometimes in order to be you, you need to block out that noise. That's blocking out the stats, blocking out the trends, and just make the content you want, because then it's truly you, and then people will come and find you, for sure.
Yeah. Have you heard of the article called like 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly?
Yes.
It's interesting. I think he's really correct in thinking that like everyone has one thing that they can share that out of everyone in the world, like you can find like 1,000 true fans if you really cultivate that relationship.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's very positive. For example, like if I post something like one of my piano reels on my personal account, I have a personal account, but don't come. Okay, anyways, if I post on my personal account, it's just like my friends will literally be like, I don't know piano, I'm not gonna watch this.
Yeah.
And then, but whereas if you post it, like, yeah, exactly. So definitely it is the algorithm, but at the same time, I think what I'm trying to say is that it takes time to find your audience, and when you find your audience, it will be like it's more of a positive relationship.
Yeah, and it'll just snowball and grow even more as you also grow yourself and your community.
Yeah.
So when you're posting all these educational videos, and I love that they're short snippets, they're so concise and to the point. You are definitely building a huge audience. Like I think I started following you when you were just at like 10K. Now you're like 50K. It's amazing.
Thank you.
It really is amazing. And I'm wondering for you, how does that? Are you catering to like self-learners or just anyone? What's your audience?
So that was a challenging point for me, because I've asked like my audience, like, are you guys beginners, intermediate, advanced? And it was all split across the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the way I see it is I try to put something that either the advanced students would already know, but like I add just like a little different or additional information on it, so it's like a refresher.
Yeah.
Right? What's wrong with like a 30-second refresher?
Yeah.
Whereas, and also like finding topics that like new learners would be curious about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good question too. It's something I'm still exploring. It's a mystery to me, but for me, I really just want to make it accessible and immediate. Yes. Like literally, it's pretty straightforward enough, and it gets the point across. And then you could try it themselves, right? You could take the reel, take a look at it. Oh, okay, D diminished chord. That's what it is. Oh, okay, I can try to move those fingers and see what happens. You know, it's like, what's wrong with that? There's so many things we can try and explore, and I try to do it in a way that's, you know, simple and just gets the message out. I just love the piano, and in my opinion, I would want like everyone to like try the piano at least once or play it and make music, and I think it's just a beautiful thing. Yeah. Yeah,
it definitely comes across that your videos are very accessible to everybody, and I think that's part of the reason why you have such a big audience, for sure. And I think it also helps level the playing field when you have different people accessing music at different points in their lives, at different skill sets. Maybe they're returning, or maybe they're really just starting from ground zero, and it's the way that you make your videos, they're not intimidating, which I think is really good.
Yeah, I don't like being intimidating. Yeah, exactly. And just try. What I want though, as an educator in general, I think is just to like pique your interest. Because if your interest is piqued, you will take it somewhere.
Yes.
You will find out more about it. You will Google it. You will read something. You will watch a YouTube video, and you can go to other lengths that you can take yourself on. Right? It's like a teacher. I bring you to the door. Right? Like just like pique your curiosity, and I see it more like that. Yeah, it's all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life, and I love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's wonderful. No, it's really good, and I love that social media has that large reach as well.
Yeah.
Do you think with this age of information, I mean, there's so many different practice tutorials on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok that's coming out now too.
Yeah.
That it replaces in-person lessons?
No.
Is there a breaking point where it's like anything you learn on your own over books or internet will only take you so far? What's the missing bit of in-person lessons then?
So I don't think at all it replaces anything. Like when my Instagram is not meant to replace a teacher in any sort of way. If anything, I see it more as supplementary, something fun, like a guide, right? If you are serious about piano, I really recommend like finding a teacher that's a good match for you. because the things that you can learn from a live human being versus a 30-second reel, it's very far, there's a lot. I don't think it can replace it. I know there are a lot of people who are learning on their own just to see if it's a good match, just to see, how far they can take it, and I commend them on that. But there's so many things that you don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And a teacher that's there can tell you exactly what's your next step, where you need to be, like, what is happening here. It's no substitute at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really recommend, like, everyone find an in-person teacher. It's just that, I get a lot of messages from around the world, and a lot of times they tell me that there's no teacher in their area, like a piano teacher in the area. But now that everything's more accessible virtually, even something that I'm learning about and exploring, hopefully that can change. Everyone needs a teacher for sure.
What is it that the self-taught community, up to what point can they learn stuff and then need to start seeking a teacher?
Depends on what level you're trying to attain. Like, for example, I learned to cook from cooking videos and tutorials, Natasha's Kitchen. I love her on YouTube. She's the best. And I learned so many different recipes from that. And in that sense, I guess, piano online can help you with that. But let's say if I actually wanted to learn, like, proper technique, or, like, not proper technique, just, like, the way that a chef would need to be trained, I don't think you can necessarily be trained just from cooking videos, I don't know. This is also something that I'm thinking more about, and something that I'm exploring and trying to understand. Since my journey was fully taught by many different teachers, I have less experience with self-study, and now I am self-studying right now, but that's also after, like, over 20 years of private lessons. So definitely a different foundation. Definitely a different foundation. Yeah.
When you were developing that foundation, did you find that exams helped or got in your way?
So my first exam I took was, like, grade 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, and I took that, like, at 12 because I insisted on it. Like, even my teacher didn't, like, bother to tell me to take it.
Why did you insist on it?
I just thought
people don't.
I just wanted to take an exam.
Okay.
And I just wanted to do it and try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my like, we always did a lot of competitions and stuff. So, our focus was on that, and the time was spent on those things. Until, like, at one point I was, like, 11, I was like, I want to take the grade 10 exam, and then, like, basically, we prepared for it. Yeah. And then the ARCT one I took by myself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, right after age 11? You were 12 into ARCT?
We were playing ARCT pieces, but, like, again, it was always, like, master classes and, like, lots of, like performing at the RCM, and it just, like, exams just weren't a focus for my teacher.
Yeah.
She was also a professor at U of T.
Yeah.
And then she was teaching us at the RCM as well. It wasn't a focus. And then we never got around to it until, like, I was in university, and I'm like, I still have my ARCT. I think I'm just gonna, like, sign up for it and take it. It went really well, so
Good.
There we go. But it's not the traditional way of doing things. I think exams are helpful because it gives you, like, a structure, and certain students really like that goal. It fits certain personalities really well. And it gives them something to aim for, to practice for. And it's like a collaborative experience, and then you learn a lot from it. Yeah.
As a teacher, which type of personality or type of student do you find fits for exams? Is an exam something that's like a one-size-fits-all, or do you need that specific student?
Yeah, I wouldn't say an exam's one-size-fits-all, but it definitely helps if the student themselves are very organized and structured and have a very diligent practice. There are so many components that they look for, right, in the examination. So if you like to, be a little bit more, like, free flow, and, every lesson is a little bit more like, oh, let's learn a new piece, let's do something different, then it really doesn't work that well, because you really have to stick with the same, depending on the grade, like 5-6 pieces for a while.
Yeah, not everyone can do that.
No, like, some people do just get so, like, bored and just start disliking it.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part, I think. You don't want to, like, force feed someone to the point that, turns them off, right?
Yes.
Especially when there was so much passion and love to start with. So, yeah, a delicate balance for sure. Definitely a place for exams. But again, depends on the certain personality types. There's like, students that love to take exams and they want to get like 80s and 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get very focused on that. But that's not most people. That's not everyone. And that's totally fine. So,
and also, like, standardizing art is, in a way, a little bit strange.
Yeah, it is. What do you think? Like, it's kind of, how do you, standardize something that's an art form?
Self-expression.
Exactly.
Right. I find with certain students, the exams give you that goal.
Mm-hmm.
They give you a goal point, they give you a benchmark, they give you structure. But for some students, it just chokes them. They're like, why do I need to play these 6 pieces in this specific way?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to do ear training? Why do I need to do sight reading? I just want to sit down and play some chords and improvise.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I wish that the exams had that component.
Yes.
Instead of doing sight reading, can you improvise something?
Yes.
Instead of doing a playback melody, can you improvise? Are there any things in exams, I guess, through our system that we have, which is the Royal Conservatory of Music, that you would wish that they had options other than their simple, or not simple, but typical scales, pieces, etudes, musicianship, which includes like ear training, so playback, chord identification, intervals, and sight reading? Is there anything else you would want to be able to have it include?
Yeah, it's very knowledge-based. And it would be amazing if there were more like creative, open-ended tasks for the student to explore and to try, right? And something that involves more application, perhaps, or more thinking, or even just like more communication of expressing, different creative points. Right now, it's very much based on like, what do you know, like how well can you show it accurately and quick and fast, right? Mm-hmm. On a lot of things, I feel. But that's a very small portion of being an artist or a pianist, really. Mm-hmm. It would definitely be awesome for it to involve a more creative component that involves a lot more like open-ended thinking, applying themselves, improvising. It's helpful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a colleague who's also an examiner, and one thing that I really like that they phrase it is exams aren't necessarily your end goal, like I need to play everything perfectly at this level 6 level, mm-hmm. but rather it's just a snapshot of your progress in music in your whole entire journey. So when you get up to do your level 6 exam, you don't necessarily have to be perfect. This piece doesn't have to sound this certain way, but it's just like to see where you're at. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of students too. They don't feel like I have to get 100% on this math test, which is a piano test. It's just, where am I at? This is where I am. I know what I'm good at, what I'm not. And then when I do my level 7 or my level 8 or whatever, I can improve on those things there. And I find for students who are very anxious, having that type of mindset really helps them with the exams.
It's a whole like head game. Like my students would like say like, what if it's not good? What if it's not good enough? Like, what if I mess up? Like they really fear making mistakes and messing up. Actually I feel like a lot of times that kind of like, makes it happen when you worry so much about something. It's a whole mind game that you have to navigate when you're talking about exams. And it's also like a very like you said, a snapshot, but like a 1-day snapshot, right? Like depending on how you feel that day, depending on,
the instrument as pianists for ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's less of like a cumulative portfolio. It's more like just on that day at this time for the next 15 minutes, how do you do? Mm-hmm. And then you're given like a mark for it. But I always try to tell them that you're so much more than a number. You are not a number at all. It's just something of a reflection piece, something we can learn from, a goal we can try to do together. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole like mental aspect of exams, which is like, not necessarily terrible when, as a student, you have so many tests and exams throughout your life, kind of prepares you to deal with that mental anxiety too. Yeah. Gives you an experience.
Working under pressure.
Yeah.
Do you find then that, because you've done so many competitions, that competitions might be better for a student that has exam anxiety? Or does that still put them in the same mindset?
Still the same, similar mindset, but it's a lot less pressure because, it's less definitive. Like your exam seems to be just personally about you, and then a competition, there's a little bit more of a fun, competitive nature to it. But even then, it can help. It can get into your head. Like you start comparing yourself, right? But I love it when my students don't care and they just want to like show up and play, and they do really well. They're like, they don't really care either. And like I'm more like, oh yay. And they're just kind of like, cool. Like whatever. I think it's a delicate balance, just keeping your humor intact and just having a more like laissez-faire kind of attitude. That comes with time. I was not like that. Oh my gosh, like if I didn't do well in competition, it would like destroy my confidence for like weeks, months, like a long time. Like, oh my god, that was like a whole learning experience too though. You go through it and then you realize like, oh okay, maybe that wasn't so healthy.
Do you find that it's also part of a teacher's responsibility to prime their students on like how to mentally approach exams or competitions, and also the aftermath that may or may not happen depending on how it goes?
Yeah, it would be ideal, but you know, there's like so little time as is. I can't even get enough going in that 1 hour. Like I try to explain some of those aspects to them, you know, when they're like 9 or 10 and they don't understand like the bigger picture that it really doesn't matter. But at the same time, you just not enough time. There's not enough time for everything. But it's nice to put that disclaimer in.
For sure. I think it helps them approach music more healthily too.
My piano teacher was like very focused on like competitions. Like she definitely wanted to excel in that, and she wanted her students to excel in that. And so there wasn't really too much like hand holding. Like if you didn't do well, it's on you. like it's on me. You know.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure because you feel like you reflect poorly on your teacher, and then you start taking on all these additional expectations that are not even yours, that you project on yourself. And as a 10-year-old, it's a lot on your shoulders. It kind of you learn a lot about yourself too, though.
What was one thing that you've learned after doing all those competitions at such a young age, under that pressure, that you learned about yourself?
Well, what I learned about myself is to be confident in who I am. That like someone else's judgment of me, this one other person, or maybe like 5 other people, their judgment of me is not all that I am, and it's not even who I am. If they don't like my interpretation of the piece, if they don't like me, if they don't like me as a pianist, it's fine. And I was not like, I didn't feel like that when I was a kid. I felt very much so like I suck, and just a very comparative mindset. But as you grow older, you start to realize like, hey, you know, I shouldn't have put so much emphasis on one person, one random stranger's opinion of me playing a piece for like 5 minutes, depending.
They literally don't know anything about you.
At all. And like even where they're coming from, right? They might be like, you know, really focused on you, or they might not be so focused. Like, honestly, it's a headspace thing. You don't even know. So it's like I really took my power back and be like, okay, I really just not really something that I should put so much like emphasis on. It's not that important. It's a good experience. You know, you go through it, but that's it. That's all it is. It's not me. It's not a reflection of who I am completely.
I find that with music, whether it's in lessons and other experiences that you go through, you start to learn more about yourself as a human. Confidence being one thing that you really developed. Do you find that you take that confidence, or have you ever learned any other skills from music that you've brought to other hobbies of yours?
I think you do. I feel like piano kind of made me more like a little less fearful. I still feel like a fearful human being, but like a little bit more fearless in the sense of like, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like when you're just on the stage and it's just you and everyone's eyes are on you, and I've messed up. Like I've played wrong notes and I'm like, oh, there goes my ending. Like, but you survived. It's okay. It was totally fine. Like you lived, everyone lived, no one commented on it, like no one, like, you know, it's old news. And then having gone through experiences like that, I think helps you get more perspective, that things are not as like black and white. And that helps me, you know, like let's say like put myself out there for social media, right? Like if it doesn't work, I'll try again tomorrow. If this totally like flops, like I'll try a different medium, I'll try a different topic, I'll go on like a blog, or I'll start like TikTok instead. No, it's not definitive. It's the long game. Just keep going. Keep going back in to get, you know, beaten up, and then you just keep going.
Music in life is a long game, and you'll get beaten up sometimes, and I think it also helps build that resilience. That if you get beaten up, it's like, okay, do I want to continue on this path but just take a different angle on it? Or like you said, if it totally flops, maybe I want to try something else that's more fitting for me. Blogs, TikTok, whatever. But at the end of the day, like life is just a journey. There's no right or wrong. You try it out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. Now you know.
Now you know. And it's all information. It's all meant to kind of, I feel like it helps you guide you to your true light and true path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So honestly, every time something doesn't work out, just get back up and try again. You can try something different. You can try something the same. You know, there's no like expiry date. You can just keep going. Yeah. And just outlast everyone.
I love that idea. There's no expiry date. When we get really our older teachers, they don't seem to expire with the music either. In the way they teach us.
It just get better and better, and I love it. It's like an age wine. It just gets better with age.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom. Is there anything that your past teachers have given you in terms of wisdom when you have, lessons?
Okay, our lessons were very focused on like the repertoire.
Okay.
And less about life.
Uh-huh.
But I guess the wisdom I took from them is just kind of like their work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Without fail, like, they're not looking to retire at all.
Mm-hmm. There's no expiry.
Like one of my professors, he kept teaching until like his last year when he was in his 80s
mm-hmm.
at U of T.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's amazing. Like what other, like how many careers can you do that with, right? Just the fact that, you can just stay in the game for as long as you want and still find new interesting parts about it and still be delighted all the time. Delighted, maybe not all the time, you have to be realistic, but just like their work ethic really imparted on me that it's important to try. Yeah, it's safer to not try, which is fine, totally fine, but when you try, like things actually can happen, and just go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Go for it.
Having that confidence, having that resilience, and just trying and doing all that is something that music has taught a lot for me as well too, and a lot for my other students as well. And I wish that everyone could have equal opportunity getting into music and trying that, or any art for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really nice because I know a lot of adult students that I teach now, they never had that opportunity. And they now when they have lessons with me, they're like, wow, I wish I had this when I was younger because I could have learned this when I was younger and worked on it too, whether it's skills of work ethic, confidence, and building yourself as a human and self-discovery. Well, my lessons are very like self-discovery based, so that's probably why.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, do you incorporate that as a part of your lesson plan, or you just it's more spontaneous? Like in the moment, you find a metaphor to tie it with, and it helps them kind of like see.
I think for me, when I'm teaching, I'm very much based on the idea that if I can change your psychology, I will have a much more profound effect on your technique, your musicality, the way you look at music, in ways that I could not just simply tinker with, like, put your pinky here, put your wrist higher, but it's the way you think about stuff.
Cool.
And I find that it's not that the student isn't musical. It's not that they don't have fingers that are fast enough. It's not that they don't love music, but it's the way that they're looking at it and the way that they're thinking about it.
Mindset and attitudes?
Yeah, and just all that is what blocks their physical mechanism in producing something. So, for example, let's say I have a student who's thinking for whatever reason that the music is difficult. It's hard. And they can never do it because their fingers are too slow or whatever. They're too old. Their fingers don't move. But all of that really just weighs your processes down.
Yep.
It weighs your mentality down. Your body and mind is connected. It weighs your body down. And now you're trying to move quickly with a body that feels heavy.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to remind them, it's like, hey, it's not that your fingers are not fast enough. It's not this or whatever. But perhaps instead of thinking that you can't do it and it depresses you, let's find something that you can do. Absolutely. And you have to like navigate that in like a very subtle way.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, my body is so light. I'm like, it's not your body that's necessarily light, it's your thoughts are lighter now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love how you talked about the psychology behind it. I wish that was a topic that was explored more in university. I don't know about yours, but like at least for me in my bachelor's, we didn't really talk about that. Just like the psychology of performance. We talked about it very little bit. Just the psychology part of it is just fascinating, and also like anatomy. I wish we took like classes that explain like the physiology and anatomy of your body in relation to the piano. There was no discussion on that. Yeah, felt like I missed out on that.
In my education as well, I didn't have as much that was focused on like the psychology of music, the anatomy of music. So I had to go and learn that on my own, and I definitely give that to my students as well. And it's important.
It is, because it starts from,
It starts from here.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how this links up with the rest of your body, you got like weird body mapping and whatnot, then you're not going to be able to do it, not because you can't, but it's just a mindset.
Yes, even like visualization, it's a really important technique that I didn't know about until way later.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, my teachers always stress that it's the way you hear it. You have to hear it first before you can play it, and that's the secret, if there is one, in my opinion. When you hear it, and you know exactly what you want, I find that your body and your fingers are way more apt at expressing it than just trying to start from your fingers and just like figure it all out from there. It comes from internal, and then it's expressed outwardly after.
Can you go into a bit more about the way you hear it? What does that mean?
I just...
Like, is it imagining the sound? Is it imagining... Because it's when everything's in the brain, it's intangible, right?
Yeah.
So could you describe to you, from your point of view, like, to you, what is hearing it? What is knowing it?
Well, it's kind of like a singer, right? Like, you kind of know how you want to express it. I am no singer, but I feel like the piano gives me a tool to sing what I hear in my head. And certain pieces really vibe with me, and that helps a lot. And I know exactly how I want this to sound. And then once I'm really crystal clear on it and my fingers are not like meshing with it, then I can work on that. I can work on figuring out, okay, where do I need to take more time? How's the balance going? What's going on with my left hand? Why is it so clunky? Like, so many things. But it's all like a reflective process between what the ideal I have in my head and the instrument itself. Mm-hmm. And then working with my limitations.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
I'm sure it's not as much as you feel it is. As musicians, we're very highly critical of ourselves.
Yes. I find that to be super true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've just been like, master classes and lessons like for years and years and years and years, and you just get thrown. I wouldn't say under the bus, but you realize all these things that, I wasn't doing well. And then you can't help it. It becomes like a narrative. So I feel like for most of my adult life, I've been working really hard on like being positive and like my confidence. Mm-hmm. My confidence was so shot for like all my university years. Mm-hmm. So shot because I just felt so crappy. I just felt And then you have to like find your way back to yourself. And I think like that's why when I took a hiatus away from piano from like 21 to like 27, 28, that really helped me like build back my confidence and in the real world as a teacher and everything. And I got really lots of positive feedback, and then I started to feel good. And it's been a journey. Yeah, confidence can change a lot. Yeah, and I think as roles as being a teacher, we always have to find ways to build that confidence in the student. Because once they're inspired and they're confident, like there's no stopping them. Right. There's no stopping them at all. Yeah. Do you find like, how do you feel about building confidence in your students? Is there anything that you find like helps? Is it like positive reinforcement? Is it like positive experiences, or just getting them to discover the joy of making music? This is something I'm trying to learn too, like just trying to instill more confidence in my students. Yeah. I find this is like a blanket statement, but it depends on the student. Right. But what I usually do is I will observe how the student plays, how they think, and I just find their blocks. Oh, okay. And whatever is blocking them, you find the way to just kind of remove that block, and they realize, I'm capable. I'm able to do this, whatever my teacher is asking, whatever I want. And then just in the act of experiencing that they are able to do something, gives them that confidence. Wow. I see. Yeah. Sometimes you might need to like take away their blocks by doing that positive affirmation, by giving them exam experiences, by setting them up for success. But whatever way it is to remove that block for them and to find who they are is where the confidence, I think, really comes in. Wow. That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. That's amazing. That's something I'm definitely working on, just like helping my student, feel like, even though like all the words in the world like doesn't convince someone if they're not convinced up here. Yeah. So you have to remove that block. Why are they not wanting to accept that? Yeah, I know. I had like a really amazing student. She was very self-critical, and I like throughout the years I tried so hard to help her see like just exactly like what I see, which is how amazing she is. And it was hard. It was hard to change her mindset. Change the narrative. Change the narrative. Yeah, that self-talk can be very limiting, and I find that even it's a reflective piece. But I find that even, you know, with my colleagues and my fellow teacher friends, like, there's a lot of like limiting self-talk that we're not even aware of, but it's there, and yeah, something to like, you know, let go of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how in the very beginning you were talking about, you know, a mirror. Music's a mirror. People are a mirror. It's nice if you're a bit more aware of what things are being mirrored back to you. You can start to see those limiting beliefs. You can start to see where you're not confident, or I'm attracting a certain type of student. What does that mean? You know?
Yeah.
And doing that inner work.
It is inner work. I absolutely agree. It's like a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I realize how far I still have to go.
We all have a journey.
Everyone
takes that different path.
I know, and our journey like brought us to here right now, and that's amazing. Like, I love it.
I love how social media can do so much.
Yeah.
And how it can bring everyone's journeys, and you might come together and do something amazing in their part, or you might stay together for a long time. It doesn't matter, but just enjoy the process. Don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah.
Learn something about yourself, and then you're off. Go do stuff.
Exactly. It brings people together that otherwise you would never meet, ever.
Yeah.
Right? I think I did a question one time. I asked, like, what other languages do you speak on a story? And I got back, like, responses of, like, 50 different languages. Like, I would never, ever have this opportunity to interact with people that are so diverse. But through this platform, you get a chance to all come together here for a few hours, you know, and then go back to do your own thing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It is really wonderful.
Yeah.
Music and social media and technology really brings us together.
It really can. Yeah.